posted on the Practical Farmers Iowa listserv an article that showed that he was no-tilling for many years, and he had increased his organic matter level from like 2-something to 3-something%, and then he went to cover crops on top of that, and suddenly he popped up to 5.5% in 5 years. So his experience seemed to show that the cover crop added, it was a quicker building of organic matter than no-till by itself, than the no-till part. So I think this is all preliminary. They're both important, and I'm certainly not knocking no-till. I think that we need to do that as much as possible.
You had talked about better job or better managing cover crops. How do you feel about flying it off? I mean, that's what
flying on cover crops? Have you done it?
Yeah.
Does it work for you?
Well, some years it's
some years.
Like awesome, and other years.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've heard. That sometimes, if the moisture's just right, it'll take right off, and if the moisture's not so good, it's a little trouble. So it's a little bit more of a crapshoot.
Well, planting into corn, you know, if your corn doesn't get out till last week.
Oh,
you know,
planting after corn is difficult, unless you have corn silage, of course.
Yeah.
But now there's quite a bit of work with the Practical Farmers of Iowa planting into corn. Some are doing it like when the corn's about this tall from the table, going in there and planting the rye then, and then it takes off, and it just kind of sits dormant until the corn starts to lose leaves and it starts to get light, and then it takes off. So people have been doing a bit of work with that. We're also taking a high boy through when the corn is tall, before harvesting the corn, going with a high boy and broadcasting, or flying it on. Yeah, sometimes you have good luck with flying it on, and sometimes you don't, so it's a hard one. Yes?
Even with, on your water quality plan, which I'd like to hear a little bit more about it, having a water quality plan instead of a conservation plan, but short of regulation, in reality, I mean, to get enough participation for us actually to have an effect on the Gulf, or even, for our own water quality here in Iowa, tying it to, to the subsidies, and it almost has to be a part of it for people to take it seriously.
Yeah, I think that's, unfortunately, I agree that I don't think we're going to make a lot of progress on our water quality work until we have something that's mandatory. It's just, historically, the participation rates, even with a lot of cost share, they're not that high. And Vilsack, when he was here a couple of years ago, he said that since he became U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, they've shipped $1.2 billion to Iowa for conservation. And we haven't really made much progress. We haven't really made a lot of progress at all on our water quality in the aggregate. And so that's why I call it that merry-go-round. We go around, we have a lot of projects, we put a lot of cost share money into it, but we just don't seem to have any way to measure. We don't even want to measure it. The politicians don't even want to measure what our water quality is to know. So I think this water quality plan thing would be really, I think it'd be very effective. Because if you got a water quality plan and if the data is right, you can actually guarantee that you're going to be not, on an average, that you're going to be meeting that goal. It varies from year to year, of course, what the effects are, but just like soil conservation, some days you get some years you get a big erosion event, and some years you don't. But on the average, you're meeting that goal.
So even tying it to...
Tie it to the federal subsidy.
To even crop insurance. At least
yes.
No one's making you do it, but if you want this big break on you, well, then you would do it. I mean, you're right. Short of forcing someone to do it, but they get a big break in doing something.
So, yeah, if it was tied to the insurance program, crop insurance, then it wouldn't really be necessarily mandatory.
It's still voluntary if you participate to a certain level. The higher the level you are, the bigger your break on your, something like that, where people don't like to be forced to do something, but it's certainly still voluntary if your incentive is to get a break on your crop insurance, things like that.
Right. Even at a state level, we have mandatory manure management plans, and so we require. We laugh, but we do have a requirement. We could have a statewide requirement for a water quality plan. Now, I don't think that's going to fly politically. But what I've been trying to push more recently is that why don't we just, the next increment of money, maybe $2 million, we fund Iowa State University, the water center, to create that model. And then we can hold it up and farmers can plug in their fields and their farm and see if they're meeting it. If they're meeting the goal, they can like the Century Farm Award, they can be, on the award list. And we maybe could build people on that list who are proud to be able to say, I'm doing my part for water quality. So maybe it could be voluntary in that regard too. But I think the thing is to make that model so we can have that available. Yes?
Francis, could you talk about the economic value of cover crops? Have you noticed good returns?
The value of cover crops. The research shows that it takes about 5 years or maybe a little more to start to see the difference in the soil. And that's with the cover crops that's being used now, the short cover crops being killed early. But what happens is that you're putting that organic matter in, you're starting to build that soil structure. So the soil will hold more water. It'll improve the organic matter level, so the nutrient holding capacity. So you're building your soil tilth, and a lot of things are improving with cover crops. But it takes about 5 years or more to get that benefit. And so if you're investing now in cover crops, it's a little hard to do it unless you have a stewardship mindset. It's a little hard to justify it. But now, if you're doing this roll down, letting the rye really grow up, I'm convinced you can make big progress in a hurry. There's a guy in North Dakota, Gabe Brown. Anybody heard of him? You have. And he's made tremendous progress in his organic, not only his organic matter, but all of his nutrients in his soil. He hasn't put any fertilizer inputs for years, but his soil test levels are going through the roof because all that biology is working and making nutrients available and cycling them. And so I think that the benefits can be really great, but you have to kind of really go for it. I mean,
have you personally realized some benefit with reduction in inputs?
You have?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I'm asking you.
Me? Well, I haven't been doing it long enough. I've been a dairy farmer for many years, and I just recently have enough land to do some cropping. And so I'm not going to claim anything yet. But I think I see definitely from my grazing some improvements in the soil. But I also see, like in the fall, I didn't show the slide, after the soybeans grew up through there and we harvested them, there still was that mat of rye. And I pick it up and I could pull it. It was just kind of rotting. But it was still protecting the soil, and underneath there, all that biological activity going on. I'm excited about what the results are so far. Yes, yeah.
I'm going to push back a little bit about
Sure.
the voluntary, looking at that display over there, and Bloody Run Trout Stream was a special project that had federal money and state matching money.
Is that a Big Springs basin? Is that part
No, the science was more between south of Luena or Postville, that area.
Okay.
One of these little streams that go directly to the Mississippi. And during my farming career there, from the 70s to when it was corn base, fence row to fence row, we've gone through these cycles, and then low corn prices and whatever. But there was big floods, muddy water, and by the time that the full work of the NRCS got done with that watershed, so that all of the terraces were in and all the projects were done, just a absolutely noticeable difference in water quality in that stream.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lot of money if you extrapolated that to the whole state of Iowa, you're talking billions, but that's what they're talking now anyway, billions. If there were billions available for cost share for bioreactors and all that stuff, more of them would happen then, and farmers put up a quarter of it.
Yeah.
Voluntarily.
Right. So do you think we can do that statewide?
Well, if somebody put up the billions, there would be a lot more done.
Well, it's true. There could be more done with the billions. Sometimes, though, like the Environmental Working Group did a study over 10 years of an area, and they looked at how much money went in. I thought it was $10 million, but they looked at all the conservation practices when they started, and then after 10 years and all this money, and they had the same number afterwards as before. Now that was one. Now maybe where you have really a good tight group and neighborhood and people are working together. I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical, but I'll give you that. Now the Big Springs Basin too. I was in D.C. when that was going on. We were funding it from the federal level, and that had some progress too. It was groundwater and so on.
And they had the rotations and the terraces and the contouring and the forage production on contour strips and all. You could see it from a satellite picture, plain as day.
So the key is you guys from Northeast Iowa. That's the problem. You both these are in Northeast Iowa. You got to come out and teach everybody else how to do it. Somebody else, yes.
One other comment I've always thought about that the same, if you're trying to improve water quality, the same things that you're going to be doing to improve water quality, it's not like you're just putting all your investment in that. You're also at the same time reducing flooding, improving soil health, improving diversity on the landscape. It's the same solution for all of the things that affect.
Exactly. That's kind of what I tried to get at in the beginning, looking at the prairie and so on, that if you do it right, it solves all the problems. And with the perennial, like the grazing system compared to the cows and the CAFO, if you have a good grazing system, you're building the soil, you're increasing plant diversity, you're improving the health of the animals, and the animals that graze have a healthier nutritional profile for the milk and meat. So you've improved, by following that natural ecology model, you've improved all the levels. Whereas our industrial model is to kind of try to control it all and overpower the nature's ecology, which always has these blowbacks of water quality problems and breaking down the soil, reducing organic matter, and all these other.
But it comes back to the key, it always comes back to getting enough people in a watershed to participate to make a difference. I mean, it always comes down to getting enough participation.
That's
There's
true.
people out there doing amazing things.
That's true,
but just
absolutely.
getting enough percent in the watershed to make a difference.
That's right. Yes?
I think a lot of it's education. If people understood the benefits, even without mandatory. You know, I read an article 4 or 5 years ago, and it said that this guy was doing the no-till and cover crop. He had increased his organic matter from like under 2 to over like 6 or 7. Pat will remember the numbers. He's kind of the poster child over in Indiana. But he had it was 6 years ago when we had kind of a drought, and his ground did 145 bushel corn, and the stuff on the other side of the fence is 40. He said every 1% of organic matter is equivalent to 4 to 5 inches of water in your soil.
Like 20,000 gallons of per acre.
Yeah, but is there a tie to, you know, the leaching of nitrogen and the buildup of organic matter, or are those unrelated?
Well, they definitely are related because when you have a healthy soil, the organic matter is in many different forms. You have the humus, you have some that's partially decomposed, some that's more completely decomposed. And so you have all that cycling going on, and so it can hold more nitrogen in those cycles. Whereas if you starve those cycles, then you only have mostly humus, and so the nitrate won't have a place to cycle. So yes, definitely.
Going back to the education, I read that article. I go in and I see Pat, and I say, Pat, what do you think of cover crops? He says, well, I think they're great. I said, I think I might do it. He says, well, we pay you to do it. And I had no idea. Now, I don't pay a lot of attention to this stuff, granted, but I don't think people know.
Well, there is money for cover crops, but usually it's gone by the end of the year. I mean, it's used up, which is good.
Not in Clayton County.
Really?
There was workshops.
Is it gone?
If you find it, when you find out, if you're not there and ready to fill out the paperwork, it's gone in less than 3 or 4 days.
Is it?
And it's, yeah, I've been trying.
There's different programs that you can cost your cover crops through.
What's that?
There's different programs you can cost your cover
That's
crops
right.
through, and some are better than others, and some are more available than others. But
Uh-huh.
if you're really interested, you can probably find some cost share for that.
I think that's probably, like, to his point too, I think that that's huge education, but also I think sometimes farmers are so set in their ways that, and when corn's only, $3, $3.25 a bushel, they say that can be a very difficult decision for a farmer to make when the grain prices are so low. But knowing that those problems are out there to solve, to work together to help the soil is huge, and yeah, but it's.
I can understand when the prices are low, but I remember a few years ago the prices were way up there, and the farmer said, "Well, now I really need to buy this equipment, and I can't afford to do it now either." So, but it's interesting because I have a neighbor who's a conventional farmer, and he does cover crops all the time. And he doesn't know if it's benefiting him or not, but he just thinks it's the right thing to do. So there's a certain mindset. Maybe you said education. I don't know how we get there. Maybe we get to a certain critical point, and suddenly it becomes the thing to do. Just like having a big truck, you got to keep up with your neighbor. Yes.
The biggest problem with that is the outside interest, especially global companies that are buying land and companies here in Iowa. They don't have a vested interest in participating in any of that.
Right. And
They
absentee
really are
landlords.
not. And they've pretty much given carte blanche to do whatever they feel like doing. I mean, we see it at the local level, we see it at the state level, that there is no.
What percentage of the land is owned by? It is rented about half, isn't it?
A large.
Yeah. So That's the other problem, is that a lot of it's owned by somebody else, and so why do you want to put a lot of money into building it up when you might lose it next year? Yeah. Well, I don't know if we're beating a dead horse here, maybe we should all go home, you know? Okay, thank you.